I'm taking my own advice and opening up to new brands that I haven't covered on this channel. And this is a good first step. I like that one. Welcome back to the Rebel Tech channel. I'm Justin, and in this video we're going to be covering the Lewitt LCT 240 Pro condenser microphone and seeing if I can convince myself that there are more brands out there than just Audio-Technica and Shure and Rode. I definitely need to keep an open mind with these microphones, and I was hesitant to buy microphones initially because of the price, and it's all coming out of my pocket. But now that I'm able to spend a little bit of cash, put a budget aside, that's what I do. I put a certain amount of money aside for microphones and investment in the channel, and then I decide on what I want to do with it and what I want to cover. And Lewitt wasn't on my radar initially. I went back and watched a bunch of videos from Podcasts and Boot Junkie on the Lewitt series of microphones, and the 240 was one of them. And it's really tough for me to open up to that because I am a person that uses things, and if it works, I stick with it. But I wanted to test myself and keep myself open to other brands and other microphone tones and sounds. So without any further ado, let's get into the build of this microphone. And I will admit, this is not the stock setup. The pop filter and the shock mount are accessories that come with packages and stuff like that, but I bought the stock mic and then I bought the accessories afterwards. The only thing that came with this mic was a windscreen and a mount, a regular mount with no shock on it. So let's get into the microphone itself and the build. I was very impressed when I first felt this microphone and really dove into how it looked and how they constructed it. They did a great job in putting this thing together. The mesh here is a dual layer, so one is more fine than the other, so the holes are smaller on the inner mesh than the outer mesh. And the body, of course, well made. I love the logo, and it really is a very well-made microphone. I give them a lot of credit for that. And as far as stock things, the mount is nice, but it's better to have a shock mount if you're able to get it, which I'll do a test. I'll plug in a test here of just tapping it and making sure you guys have examples of everything that I have with this microphone. But I'll clip to that right now. This is a regular mic stand on the shock mount itself and on the top part with the pop filter. So continuing on with the build, let's talk about the shock mount. The shock mount is unique to the Lewitt series microphones. It might work with other microphones, like if it has a separate housing for the XLR cable. I think it will work like Audio-Technica or whatever, but Audio-Technica has their own line of shock mounts, so get the shock mount that matches the mic. It's just easier to do it that way. There are some generic ones, but I would say stick with the ones that are matched with the microphone because they're made for it. Now, the last thing that comes with this package, I guess you can buy this package together, but I bought it all separately because I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if I wanted to get all of it, but I got some good deals on them and just wanted to give a full review. If I was going to do this review, I wanted to do it full. So this pop filter or windscreen here is magnetized on the bottom here. And I saw some people on Amazon when I was looking for it say, "Oh my God, doesn't work. It's horrible. It doesn't work." Well, if you read the description of it, it has to go with the shock mount. The shock mount here has a platform where this magnetizes onto it and sits on it really nice. And there you go. That's it. Now, the last thing I'm going to say, this microphone comes in 2 colors. It comes in black and it comes in white. And if you know me, I like a black microphone. I just like the simple look and everything like that. But there was something about this microphone that really brought me to the white color. Also, it's a good thing to try new things, and I really like it. I actually really enjoy the white look of it, and it's unique and it's a little different and it stands out in my collection of microphones, so that's nice to have. So now I'm going to show a graphic of all the specs and tech that go into this microphone, and then I'll talk about some of the specifics that I think really stand out for this specific one. So as far as the sensitivity is concerned, this microphone has a lower sensitivity comparatively speaking to other condenser microphones, like compared to a AT2020, 2035, which I'll get into in my comparisons that will be coming out in the coming weeks. I do feel that it might be a little low, but I think that helps it in a way, because if it's in a controlled environment, which obviously condenser microphones in a controlled environment do thrive in those environments. So you want to have this in a not necessarily crazy treated room, but enough to avoid noise and stuff like that. Lastly, the impedance and the noise. The impedance is 100 ohms, which is really nice low impedance there. And then the noise is 19 decibels. So pretty standard and pretty common for a microphone like this. Common for a under $200 microphone. It's not crazy good, but it is pretty good, especially for the price. Now lastly, in Techy Talk, the frequency response curve, and everyone can say it with me because I've been saying it for a while now. The frequency response curve is the most important thing about a microphone because it shows how the microphone was tuned. Agree with me, disagree with me, down in the comments, let's talk about it. So let's talk about this one. All right, so different setup here. Frequency response curve for the LCT 240 Pro. Just a little disclaimer, the reason why I'm doing this and the reason why this whole thing is happening late, because this video was recorded and set up in around April or so, and the frequency response curve was wrong on the website. I have the manual to prove it, and now it's different. And people have pointed it out multiple times, and now I finally got the update on what the frequency response is actually on the LCT 240 Pro. Now, the AT2020 is here because I'm doing this all at once, and I don't feel like changing it. And I want to get it done and get the right information out to you people. You people as in audio people. And anyone who's interested in microphones. So without me babbling any further, the LCT 240 Pro frequency response curve. So the low cutoff, you can see here, is about 5 decibels below 0. So it's -5, a little bit more, and it has a natural low cutoff to the microphone. Now, obviously, this means that there are no switches naturally to the microphone. There's no extra stuff on the microphone. This is a straight up microphone. So natural low cutoff starting at around 200 and then starts to dip off and becomes less and less audible and less apparent. But for the most part, anything lower than 50 is not usable. Well, I'm not going to say not usable, but I'm going to say it's not as important. Now moving on to the mid section, and I mean low mids and mids, starting around 200. It's a little bumpy, but it's pretty flat from about 200 to about 1,000, maybe 1,200 or so. Then it starts to rise up. I kind of like this. I like how it looks on a chart. This is obviously how it looks on a chart, not necessarily how it sounds. Obviously, I'll let you know, or past me will let you know how I felt about it in the booth. And I will be doing more videos in the future and see if my opinion changes throughout the time that I've had this microphone. I mean, opinions change, ears change, and maybe different circumstances will allow me to hear it differently. I don't know. Comparisons definitely put it into perspective for sure. Now, moving on to the high mids and the highs. So, 1200 or so. Starts to rise up and then plateau around 2K, maybe a little before. And then gets to a peak around 4K. Now, this is nice. This is where you start to get your presence boosts and where you notice the like sparkly textures in that high end. Now, what I missed, and it's the only time that I will say this about the difference between the 440 Pure FRC compared to this one, which is the right one, apparently. It's on the website right now, and I'm looking at it. I literally just pulled it up. So, keep that in mind. It goes to a peak around 8K, and I don't know who it was, but a couple of people pointed it out, so I do appreciate the input and the updates. And I apologize for getting wrong information before, but I can only get what I get. So this is the way it is. So now the difference is 8K, there's a boost, and we're talking about 7, maybe 8 decibel boost around 8K, and then starts to dip off. You get a valley right below, like around 4 decibels high, and it's around like 12K. It's a little bit of a dip, but still a rise above 0 decibels. Then another around 15K, which is the same as the 440 Pure, and it's a little bit higher, actually. It's above that 5 decibel thing, so maybe 5.5 or so. So keep that in mind. Now, these presence boosts are really nice because with specific voices, it definitely amplifies those tones and definitely gives you a natural tone that could help some voices. Now, every voice is different. Every voice will benefit from these, or maybe even not. Sometimes it gives you a little too much in a frequency you don't like. So keep that in mind and be wary of what your frequencies are with your voice and of the tones that you're putting into the microphone. All right, so back to past me, and where the rest of the video is pretty easy to talk about because it doesn't revolve around a frequency response curve that they apparently got wrong or put up the wrong one. I'm not salty. I'm just tired of this. So, back to the other one. Bother me. It's a multiverse thing. I don't know. Okay, before we go to the booth, let's do a noise test and let's do an off-axis rejection. Now, of course, this is my little studio here. I have a bunch of sound blankets and some moving blankets as well around. So, it's soft surfaces, but it's not treated. It's treated, but it's not like soundproof, I should say. So let's do these tests pretty quick because I want to get into the booth and really listen to this thing. All right, so for that noise test, there was a little bit of stuff going on in the other room. Like I said, there's some treatment here, but not enough to really dampen everything. There's a laundry going on and a fan going on in the other room, so you might have heard that. I did boost it, so consider that as well. So let's do some off-axis rejection. We're going to do the 90s and 180 and a distance test first. So throughout this video, I've been talking right on the microphone about like 2-3 inches away. Now I'm about like a foot, maybe even 2 feet away from the front of the microphone. And this is what it's going to sound like in my studio here, as I described before. Okay, now 90-degree test on stage right? Yeah, stage right. I have a job that has to know that, then I should know that. So stage right, 90 degrees, about a foot, maybe 2 feet away, and this is what it's going to sound like in a mildly treated room. This is 180 degrees, about 2 feet away from the back of the microphone. This is what it's going to sound like. Now, before I finish up here, just for variety's sake, and also examples that I want to give everyone, I'm going to go around the mic and see what you guys think in close proximity. Because Podcasters does it, so I must do it. Because I've been influenced by all his videos. Well, a lot of his videos. So this is me close up. This is about the distance I would be talking into it normally, but on the 90-degree side. Moving around to the back, about 6-7 inches away from the rear of the microphone, this is what it's going to sound like. Now, back on the other 90-degree side, and this is what it's going to sound like in close proximity. And back to the front. That's enough there. Let's go into the booth. I'm really excited to listen to this thing. Alright, so we're in the booth right now with the Lewitt. Obviously, you're watching the Lewitt LCT 240 Pro review and test on the Rebel Tech channel. And it's the last one I'm doing in the booth right now. Actually, I did all the comparisons in the booth already. And I think I like doing it this way because it gives me an idea of where it lands in the landscape of it, and I can give definitely a more educated opinion on it. Sure, I listened to it before and not altered, but meaning my opinion, but now that I listen to it, I actually really like this thing. You'll see in the comparisons where I'm bouncing back and forth of how I feel about it, but I really like this microphone. I do have my issues with it. It's a little nasally for my voice, and it's definitely not perfect. But it's definitely something I wouldn't be upset with throwing on a mic stand and throwing it in the booth for a performance or whatever. It's a good variety of microphone, and it gives a specific tone that could help more people. Meaning that if you're an audio engineer, if you run a studio or whatever, you want to have as much variety for your clients or your singers or whatever, your bands or whatever. You want to have the variety for you. And I'm thinking of it as a engineer and a person who works in studios. I mean, I haven't worked in a studio in a while, and it's probably been about 2 years since I was in a studio. COVID and everything, that whole thing. But I definitely feel that having the variety is nice. Now, of course, if you're a person who's not in a studio and you're just looking for a good voiceover microphone or a good microphone for content, regardless of what the content is, this one has a lot of potential to give you what you want. And if you're a person with a nasally voice, I might not recommend this for you. I like it how it sounds on my voice, but it's not perfect on my voice. So let's do a plosive test and see how it sounds. And I got a couple of configurations I got for you. This is Louie, Naked Louie. And I'm kind of having some good microphone etiquette. That's why. The pop filter made for the Louie. SE Electronics. Both of them. The provided windscreen, which alters the sound, and we'll get into the tone in just a sec. And both the SE Electronics in that. So to give you a little bit of a palate cleanser, here is how it sounds with the pop filter and the microphone. Duh. And I don't think it alters the tone that much, or if at all. But if you take it off, this is what it's going to sound like without it. And you notice that it's a pretty neutral, not neutral, but natural tone for the microphone. Then you throw this on, and it might alter it a little bit, but probably not that much. Here is where the tone gets altered, and it starts to dampen some of that high end. And you notice it in a little bit of my nasaliness. It definitely dampens some of that, but it also takes away some of the texture of the high end. I'm kind of like torn because I could see the potential where this can be used, but I also am not huge on it with my voice. Maybe for someone who is looking for a more mid to low tone, maybe you throw this on to get a natural, actually I should say physical filter rather than do a digital or post-processing thing. And it might get something closer, because the more and more you layer on those post-processing, the EQs and the plugins, you start to lose the humanization of it, if that makes any sense. But the way that I would use this, I would use it like this. I would use it with the SE Electronics pop filter and just be a voiceover microphone like this. I really do think this is going to be a good voiceover microphone for a lot of people. And for me personally, it has a tone that I definitely like, and for certain situations, it definitely will be something that I go to in the future. Alright, so that's enough here. We're going to go into the untreated room and see how it fares in a less nice area. Nice and like acoustically nice. Okay, so we're in the untreated room, and this is my bedroom. My actual bedroom that I'm in right now. As you can see, I got a bunch of Mets stuff behind me because I'm a big-time New York Mets fan. So that's besides the point. I'm just trying to find things to talk about while I'm in this room. This is a different room, and I'm thinking of doing the untreated room tests in here. Actually, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doing the untreated room stuff in here now. I definitely think there's more reflection in here because there's less soft stuff and it's not as cluttered as the other room. So what I will do is explain what the lay of the land is. So 8-9 foot this way, but then it's like 15 feet that way. So it's more of a rectangle rather than a square shaped room. So you're going to have some reflection back, and you could definitely hear it. That flutter there, a little bit of flange effect going on there. Without any further ado, let's do the off-ax rejection. And of course, you might hear some noise outside because it's windy out, so something you may have to deal with in your room or someplace that you're recording in. So I've been about 2-3 inches away from the mic, and now we're going to back up and do a distance. Okay, about 2 feet away from the front of the microphone. This is what it's going to sound like in the untreated room. There's not really any treatment whatsoever. There's a lot of stuff in the room, but a lot of like hard surface stuff. The bed is probably the only soft surface. There is a rug underneath me and wood floors underneath me as well. The rug is right directly underneath me, so that does help, but the wood floors certainly get some reflection off of it as well, some wood shelves and things like that. Now I'm on stage left here, 90-degree test with the Lewitt. And this is what it's going to sound like in my untreated room. Like I said, these are flat walls, not a lot of soft surfaces, but there is a rug above a wood floor. The rug only covers about a quarter of the floor, so that's something to consider. Lastly, 180-degree test about 3 feet away from the rear of the Lewitt right now. This is a cardioid polar pattern, so it is going to be rejecting the back, but I might get some reflection off the window. There is a curtain over the window right now, so maybe that helps, maybe it doesn't. You guys let me know down in the comments what you think of the rejection in the untreated room. Alright, let's go down to the studio and finish this up. Alright, so I've edited most of the video. I've gotten through like 90% of everything but obviously this outro. And I have some thoughts. Now, the pros and cons. I'll go with the cons first so we can build up from there. The cons, the off-ax rejection is not that great. To be honest, it was like, there were times where I felt like it was a little bit too similar than in front of the mic. That the comparison of the 90 to the in front of the microphone was very similar. You could tell the difference, but it is a condenser microphone, so I will give it a little bit of slack. But I will say, on the kind of pro side, if you put this in a booth or if you put this in a controlled environment where background noise is not an issue, it definitely will thrive in those situations. But it is a con because you're kind of restricted with the areas in which you can use it, which is the same kind of situation for most condenser microphones. But for this one in particular, I don't think it's great in a untreated or a noisy area. Now on to the pros. I do feel like it's a good, well-rounded microphone. I kind of think it in the same like genre or the kind of same tone as the PD70. I feel like this is very similar in like you can manipulate it. It's very neutral in some aspects of it, and you can see the flatness in the lows and the mids, and it has the presence boosts in the high ends, but I definitely feel that it's very easy to manipulate in post-processing, and it gives you more flexibility. And I know I say this all the time, but you can EQ anything. You can throw a plug-in on anything, but the more you throw on to a microphone, the more processed it sounds, I guess the best way to put it. I definitely think, as far as like overall microphone and my overall thoughts on this, would I recommend it in a booth? If you have a booth and you are a voiceover person, if you're a voiceover person, or if you're into singing or anything like that, and you have a controlled environment, or even just like a makeshift booth in your closet or whatever, it definitely will be really good in those situations. In a situation like this, even in my mildly treated room, maybe not. Now, that has been my review of the Lewitt LCT 240 Pro condenser microphone, and I am very excited to get into the comparisons. Actually, I have recorded all the comparisons. I'm currently editing them right now, so I'm excited to share them with you and see what you guys think. Most of my condenser microphones are Audio-Technica, the 2020, 2035, 4040, and eventually it's going to be the NT1 that when I get another one. I'm getting another one eventually when I get the money. I'm putting money aside so I could get another one, but it will be compared to that eventually. But the Audio-Technica ones are going to be coming out week to week, so keep an eye out for those. And so you know that those videos are coming out, just hit the subscribe button. It'd be greatly appreciated. If you like my vibe around here and everything that I'm going into with these microphones, the sampling stuff that's going to come out, it's not going to be a major part of this channel, but it's something that I've been wanting to put out. So if you're not interested in the sampling stuff, just pass by it and go to the next microphone review when it comes out. That's all I ask, is just be respectful of people's creativity. That's all. Oh, one more thing. If you like the video, please hit the like button down below. It'd be greatly appreciated. It helps that whole YouTube algorithm thing, getting out to more people and stuff like that. I want to get these Lewitt microphone reviews and comparisons out to more people so that we can build this community. We're well on our way to 2,000 subscribers, which is really cool. And that's all I got for you today. Until next time, see you rebels in the next video.